meeting today. It's generally a quarterly meeting, and Charlene was there also. During this emergency, they're going to be having it on a monthly basis. I wanted to share 6 slides from the meeting with you. The first one is the agenda, and I sent Simeon the link so he can share it with everybody. Then this is the week goes on, so I like to call out pre-K expansion grants and Head Start. They're implementing distance learning, and then it goes on with some of the other things that are continuing. I'm going fast. Here are the COVID-19 resources from the Division of Early Childhood. So if you're looking for some resources, they're right there. And you'll be able to go through this on your own. Let's see. What can the KRA data tell me? I know everyone's always interested in the KRA data. And when I asked them if the specific data could be shared with prior care programs, they said no. The best way to find that out would be to work with your local early childhood advisory council. That's where you'd want to meet to take a deeper dive into the information. The slides in this presentation show you some of the breakouts they can have. That's pretty interesting. I'm going to go backwards 1 minute because I wanted to get to page 12 a second. The ECAC is going to have a subcommittee to plan for recovery for the early childhood system. And these are some of the questions that they'll be answering. What early childhood programs and services should be considered? Who are individuals to lead? How should we engage multiple stakeholders? What factors need to be considered? What options and mandates, and how to provide maximum flexibility? So as you look at these questions and have ideas, suggestions, please send them to me so I can take them back to Cindy and Stephen to make sure that the Head Start voice is heard as we plan for this recovery of the early childhood system. I think that's really important that our voices are heard. I'm going to go forward again now. We had an update on the KRA. So Judy gave an update on the KRA reports, and on slide 34, I think the bottom 2 things were kind of interesting from a Head Start point of view. That the KRA report, school and district administrators pinpoint areas of focus in pre-kindergarten and target professional development. So I think we need to be in on those kinds of conversations. And I'm going to go to page 51. Okay, and Rachel shared about the pre-K expansion birth through 5 plan. And this is all part of the statewide strategic plan. And I think I mentioned it before. These are the key points: to strengthen availability and access, support program quality improvement, deepen family engagement, ensure successful transition experiences, expand workforce development, and systems infrastructure. So if you find you need to extend the date of your current state supplemental funding, and you can fit what you'd like to do into any of these pieces of the strategic plan, that would be terrific. So if you're not going to have summer school as you usually do, but it's going to be more costly to transition experiences for whatever reason, then you could shift your funding to doing that. You might want to do engagement and use some of the funding for that. So I wanted to share that with everybody. Again, they're the highlights. I've asked Simeon to send out the total presentation for you. Once I get the report, and that's to Simeon to share too. It's hard to listen for 2 hours just. And that's what I had to say about that. I also sent Simeon 2 links. One is a link to the Maryland Family Network Child Care Survey. So they're trying to look at child care overall. And I know Head Start's a little bit different, but they are licensed child care, for the state. So if you could, the survey's going to be only open till next Friday. It takes about 15 minutes to complete. So if you could look at that and send your answers in, that your voice is heard as we plan what the new normal is, think that would be very important to do. Another thing, the Early Childhood Mental Health Consultation Project is open virtually this year. And I sent Simeon the link to the contact list. If you or your families need some help at this time, please feel free to call and see if they're able to help you. So, anybody have any questions?
And let me unmute people, Tresa, so that they can, if they do have questions, they can ask. Okay, you should be unmuted. If you have any questions for Tresa, please go ahead and ask now. Okay. All right. Well, it doesn't sound like, Tresa, there's any questions. But
Back to mute, you can go back to being presenter.
Okay. If anyone has any questions, they could just email you, right? All right. I'm going to go back to being the presenter. And at this time, I am going to, let me go back to being the presenter first. All right. Okay, so at this time, I'd like to introduce Brenda Hewitt. Brenda Hewitt is our regional program manager for the Office of Head Start from Region 3. I think many of you have seen her at our conferences or probably spoken to her on other occasions. But she's always here to help us. You know, she's helped me out tremendously. So, Brenda, are you there?
I am, Simi. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so I just want to apologize. I don't know if anybody can see me or not. Technology is always a horrible thing. Wait a minute. I think I'm echoing. I don't know if y'all hear echo. Do you hear an echo? Okay, it may have just been me. That's because my work laptop would not bring up GoToMeeting. I tried it on my phone. It came up. My phone is acting up, so I had to run upstairs and get an iPad and send me a message. And so that's what I'm on now. So I thought we had a. Can y'all see me now? I don't know.
There you go.
Okay. Yeah. So weekly we have a regional office call with our collaborative associations, and I asked for the opportunity to come on all of the state calls, really just to, for a number of reasons. I know that you guys have been doing a lot of work and probably have a lot of questions. Things have been coming feverishly at all of us as it relates to just all this money that's coming down, different trends that are happening as a result of COVID-19. But the first reason I really wanted to be on the call was to say thank you to all of you. For all the work that you're doing, to ensure that children in some form or capacity receive some sort of learning, education, supports, food, materials, whatever it is that you are doing to support the families. I really appreciate that. In addition to continuing to support the staff so that they can continue to be paid until the end of the program year. This is a lot going on, and it has touched each of our lives tremendously. So I just really wanted to get on here and say thank you for that. In addition, I asked Simeon and all the other directors if there were questions to please forward them to me. So he did send me a number of questions that I probably will not be able to answer in this short time span. So what I wanted to do first is tell you that because I may not be able to answer every question, because I do want to allow time for, you know, your process. But I do want to report that a number of changes in the office as it relates to staffing that will support each of the programs. There have been a lot of questions about staffing, and that's because in March our customer service contract expired and it had to be recompeted. And during that process, your grant may have been reassigned to another program specialist temporarily, and or permanent, because during the process we lost a couple of contract staff that decided not to come on board with a new contractor, which we do now have. It's BCT. So we're able to retain a couple of the program specialists that did have your grants. With that said, we haven't transitioned them back yet because they're going through the process of getting the federal background check. So that takes a little bit of time. So I just wanted to let you know that. In addition, the grant staff have, which you already know, have been tremendously overwhelmed with their grant load. Nevertheless, they are moving forward to hire additional staff. So I tell you all this to say that any questions or concerns that you have moving forward, I would highly recommend that you copy both your assigned program and grant specialists on your email. And you can also copy me. That way I can ensure that it's being followed up on, or that and that your concerns are being addressed appropriately. So I wanted to get that out the way really, really quick. So let me get to some of the questions. First question, will we have a policy specifically focusing on reopening and COVID-19 CDC guidelines? And the answer to that, yes, is basically continue to check the CDC guidelines. That's pretty much what the Office of Head Start Administration for Children and Families is following. Will there be specific guidelines directly from the Office of Head Start? Right now, I can't answer that definitively. What I do know is that the Office of Head Start, Dr. Bergeron, and the key management at the NDC will be following the specific guidelines from the CDC. We have a work group specifically at ACF that is just focused in on that. It not only impacts our programs, but it also impacts our ability to go back into the office as well. So I am guessing that we will most definitely have some specific guidelines, but I can't tell you exactly when. That has been a lot of the questions with the RPMs. What will that look like, not only for us, but for our programs? How will they be going back? There are a lot of issues that are coming into play as it relates, and there's a question on here relating to the child ratio, the number of staff that can be in a classroom, head to toe, for nap time and all that. So again, those things are in the work. Great questions. Also, I just want you to know that your questions, anything that you have on this list, we have a weekly RPM meeting. I have sent these questions down already as well, just to give them an idea of some of the questions that are coming from all of our programs. So, just know that I'm doing that as well. Next question, what are the parameters for the creative use of CARES funding? So, as it relates to the parameters for the creative use, that is a very, loose word, creative. I think how I will answer that is, please make sure that you have conversations with your program and your grant specialists regarding the creative use of the CARES funding. Please ensure that you enlist your fiscal person, at your financial person, also to make sure it's allowable and allocable. Right now, I can say that we do want you to be creative, but what the creative means, if someone has something specific that they want to, really let me know about, just let me know that. But again, there are no real parameters. There was some guidance that was sent out to everybody in e-blast that kind of did give you some guidelines of things to look for. But if there's something real specific someone is looking at, we will be looking at these things on a case-by-case basis and answering those questions. So I know that that doesn't definitively answer that question, but again, we want you to be creative, yes, because it's a lot of money. There are a lot of things that are happening with our kids as it relates to this funding and in the world. So think out the box and just run it by your program. program specialist. There's, you know, you don't know unless you ask. Next question, will carryover request be approved for fiscal year 2020 funding? Again, on that question, it is on a case-by-case basis. We need to look at where you are as the grantee applicant. So I can't say definitively yes that every carryover request will be approved. You know, again, talk to your program grant specialist. We have to look at the rationale for the carryover, what's going on, what's happening. But for the most part, we are honoring a lot of carryover requests. But again, it's the justification. What are the funding dates for CARE Summer Extension funding? And I believe that was in the documentation and the guidance that was sent out. If not, just let me know. And I also sent Simeon the attachments. He said that everyone had them. But again, if not, just let me know. One of the things with all the information about the CARES Act and anything with it COVID related, it is in on ECAC. Also, there may be some resource in HSES that you can find, but I encourage you to look there. We also on ECAC have a number of commonly asked questions that are being responded to as well. What are the funding dates for the CARES Act one-time funding? Both are issued fiscal year 2020, July 1st, 2019, June 30th, 2020 cycle on HSES. Can these extend for carryover? Again, that's that carryover. Depending on your grant cycle and your program year begin date, coordinate with your grants management specialist and your program specialist. We do know that OHS is expecting that there will be some carryover. Again, we have to look at your justification for why you want to carry this money over. And while it may seem that we could make the assumption it's COVID related, you can't spend money, you can't do X, Y, and Z, we're not going to make that assumption. You have to let us know. But as a region and as an RPM, if the justification is down, we will support you as much as we can. Will federal monitoring be provided virtually? Ironically, that question comes up today. I had another question from regionally as I'm reviewing some monitoring reports, and program specialists wanted to know how to do a follow-up review that actually needed to be done on site. So the answer to that is yes. If you have the technical capacity, we will adapt and do what we can to provide a virtual follow-up review. Next question, will the CARES Act be enough funding to help purchase personal protective equipment and thermometers as suggested by OHS? I don't know. You have to look at that. If you're asking, will it be enough for us to separately purchase it versus a program taking their funding and purchasing it, I don't know. But what I do know is OHS has been looking at vendors who can provide some of this equipment in bulk to be purchased. But that's a question I'll ask. That maybe that's something they might want to consider. So again, I sent it down, but I specifically. Next question, what will be the number of children that will be allowed to enter classrooms? Is OHS recommends 42 to 44, to be 45 square feet per child. Will this impact funded enrollment? Again, these are all things that are currently being discussed, not only with the Office of Head Start, but the Office of Child Care, and they're trying to coordinate the responses and information that is disseminated to child care as well as Head Start. So keep looking out for information. As we get it, I send it out as well. What does Head Start toe look like from an OHS perspective? Should programs simply follow Head Start to toe head-to-toe sleep recommendations based on DAP. Since COVID-19 is airborne, will children be required to sleep head-to-toe to prevent breathing in faces during nap time? So again, the guidelines and the recommendations for how we will move forward to serve our children and families once we are able to go back into our centers, we will be getting guidance on that. The questions that you have asked, all of the 12 RMs across the country have been asking, that has been a tremendous concern for us as it relates to the number of just bodies that can be in any given area. So again, what I will continue to tell you with that is look on the CDC guidelines, look on the for e-blasts that continue to go out, and know that Office of Head Start and Office of Child Care are working on that. As I receive information, even though you may get an e-blast, I will make sure that our program specialists share this information with you as well. Those were the bulk of the questions for Simeon. So I don't know if anything came in. And again, because my technology is so screwed up, I can't really look at the chat. So if you see something or if somebody has a question or a comment, let me know.
Yeah, I don't have anything that has come in through the chat. But if you do, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the unmute button, and if someone has a question, they can unmute themselves and ask the question. So
Okay.
I've unmuted you. So if you have a question, you can feel free to go ahead and ask a question. You might need to unmute yourself to ask the question.
Mhm.
Hi, this is Tracy LeFave. Can you hear me?
I can.
Hi. I was wondering if there would be any further guidance given for the summer programming grants around amounts, or do we have all the guidance that will be given?
I think you pretty much have the guide from the Office of Head Start. If you have specific questions regarding your implementation or development of the summer program, I would encourage you to email your question via HSES to your program and grant specialist and copy me on it as well. We do know that our grantees are having a number of questions in terms of what it will look like, what can we do. I'm concerned because right now all the schools are closed until the end of the year. So we may not have the facilities for people to actually implement a face-to-face, in-person summer program. So you may need to have that conversation in terms of what will that look like and what can be done. So I would encourage you to have those conversations with your program specialists. And as someone asked with the CARES funds, be creative and think out the box. How can we reach our children? What is the best way for these children who are transitioning? What is the best way for children with disabilities who are missing out on so much? We have to kind of come together and look at what's working and what's not working, or what could possibly work.
Wonderful, thank you.
You're welcome.
Right. And we had another question in the chat, Brenda. They asked if you mentioned anything about the CARES application coming out.
No, I didn't, and they just would need to check in, check for their e-blast. I thought something had already come out. Okay, I will check, but I'll look on the information that I forwarded to you, and I'll also look. But I thought I could,
And
I just know that something that came to me from central office, and I just haven't had a chance to look at it.
okay.
If it did, I will send it back out out to everybody. Send me and I'll forward it to you and Tresa to send out.
Yeah.
But I think we did get something. Okay, I shut that down. All right.
Okay. Any other questions? You are unmuted, so you can unmute yourself if you have yourself muted to ask a question.
Well,
All right, well,
it sounds like people are quiet and silent, and that's fine. So I want to say that even if you don't want to ask a question online, most of you have my email. Please feel free to use it. I'm just going to be completely honest. The last week and this week, I've been kind of crazy, you know, running around. So for anybody who has been impacted or affected by COVID-19, you have my deepest regards and sympathy, because I know that I'm feeling it. I lost my brother last Thursday to COVID-19. He contracted it while in a nursing home. And the sad part is it was a Monday that I got a call, last Monday, and by Thursday, my brother was gone. And I was his guardian and caretaker. And so that's devastating. So I can imagine how anybody going through this, how they feel. So like I said, the real reason I really wanted to come on this call was even before my brother passed, was to say thank you, because this is hard for us as adults to deal with this on a day-to-day basis. So can you imagine what our children are going through and what they're experiencing? So I really want to say thank you. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to make sure that our children are okay, but it's also a lot of work to make sure that our staff are okay. But more importantly, you really need to take care of yourself first as well. So, you know, like I said, if questions come up, please feel free to email me at any time. You know, and I will respond. I will coordinate with the staff in the regional office. You know, so it's always my pleasure to join your calls. So send me in at any time you guys need me. Just let me know. If you need my fiscal expertise, I'll try to get grants officer and Desmond on the call as well.
Okay. And Brenda, there is actually one last question, which I think could be a quick one. But at first, okay. I want to just send my condolences and my thoughts and prayers to you and your family, and as well as Ms. Cohen, one of our directors, would also like to send her thoughts and prayers to
Thank you.
We had a question. Could you clarify the expectations for essential employees working in the office versus from home?
I can't clarify that, and we've had that question a number of times. Actually, that would be the agency that has to decide who is essential. We don't make that determination. That is, you look at your written policies and procedures as it relates to who's essential, why they're essential, and are these things that have been identified in your personnel policies and procedures. You know, if not, it's something that most agencies need to think about moving forward. And if in fact you are mandating people to be essential, you know, if you're getting pushback, again, coordinate with your HR and look at what the written policies are, or look at, do you need to change some of your policies and the rationale for why people are essential. We have some programs that are that have been literally making people come into the office that technically would not be essential because there are no children there. There's nothing necessarily for them to do. So again, it's on the onus is on the agency to decide who's essential and why.
Okay, and just as a reminder, Maryland does consider Head Start staff essential personnel. So staff can access the emergency child care programs that are available if that's a necessity.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you go to our website, you can click. There's a link on our website that has a list of the child care programs that are operating. So, all right. Well, Brenda, we really appreciate you being on, and you're welcome to stay as we go on and talk about some other things. So, thank you very much, and I'm pretty sure there'll be some other questions that come in at another point, and they'll email you, or if they email me, I'll forward it on to you.
Okay, I appreciate that. And I probably will hang out for a little bit.
Okay. All right, great. No problem. Again, like I said, you can email me, or you can email Brenda directly, but you can email me and I can forward that information on. The documents that she sent to me, I know that you have them. You've seen them because I think we've been over them on a few of our calls, but I'll make sure that I send those documents to you just in case. And if she emails me anything about the application, the CARES application, I'll make sure it's forwarded to you as well. Next, I'd like to bring up Mr. David Miller. I know there's been a lot of questions about PPE and cleaning supplies and cleaning agents and those type of things. So Mr. Miller is going to discuss with us about the Food and Supply Source company which he works for, and how their services can help us and how they can support us during this time. So Mr. Miller, are you there?
I am indeed. Simeon, thank you so much for having me.
Great.
And Brenda, my condolences as well. This has been, COVID-19 is certainly hitting close to home with friends and family, and my condolences to you and to everyone that's dealing with this. Simeon, thank you for having me. I appreciate it very much. Some of you may recognize the name Food and Supply Source. We've been working with Head Start programs for 20 some odd years, and we've attended Head Start conferences. Every year we seem to focus on the CACFP conferences, which of course many of you attend as well. So you may have seen us there most recently. I just want to tell you just very briefly about us. This is our 21st year, and we focus on the human services sector. We started with a very simple idea that early education and residential treatment facilities in particular weren't getting good pricing. In fact, they were getting bad pricing. And that came out of our owner, who used to be a regional sales rep for a food company. And he learned that early on as he was building his book of business and trying to establish an effective, basically build his business and build his life. And that's what he learned early on. And at some point, the light bulb went off on his head that he could bring his idea of how to get better pricing to programs like the like the Head Start program and the residential treatment facilities to other human service organizations. And you'll see a list here of some of the programs that we work with: homeless shelters, group homes, Head Start, early learning, feeding programs like senior meal programs. And so what he did was he went out on his own and he developed relationships with vendors. It started out in the food business with food distributors, and got contract pricing with them. And what does that mean? It was a pricing model that's always discounted. And so we literally, on average, save 10 to 35% for food and supplies. And we know that because of every time we talk to a new program before they become a member of Food and Supply Source, we do a cost savings analysis for them. And we actually look at invoices and we do a comparison. And most of the time, I say most of the time, because there are sometimes programs have very good pricing, But I'd say, in my experience, it's 85 to 90% of the time when we do an analysis, we find great savings. If your pricing's good, I pick up the phone and say, hey, you folks are doing great. Most of the time, we're able to find great savings for you. So that's contracted pricing. It's a pricing model that doesn't change, and I can talk about that more at the end, or explain that more at the end if you like. I know we only have a few minutes here, so I'll ask Simeon if you could go to the next slide.
Yep, but I mean, we have a few minutes, but you know, take your time.
Okay.
You know, I want to make sure everyone can, you know, gets all the information they need.
Sure. So so Simeon just put up my my email address, and you know, we start out in our as a business focusing on food with distributors, and then about 8 years ago we moved into supplies, and ultimately we're going to talk about PPEs and disinfectants. And so our core business really is looking at food distributors, and if you're buying from a food distributor, let us do a free cost savings analysis. It's very easy. We look at invoices, send me a few of your recent ones, and we lay it out on a spreadsheet, and it's a very easy report to read and to understand. And we can, the key areas, food, and then supplies like your janitorial supplies, your cleaning supplies, even office supplies. And so please note my email address. Email me at any time if you'd like. You'll find I'm very accessible. Let me also give you my cell phone and my office number. And again, I encourage phone calls. You can generally catch me. I don't schedule a lot of appointments. My approach is just to be available. And so my office number is 603-223-0611. And so that is 603-223-0611. And then my cell phone is 603-848-6275. 603-848-6275. One of the things that we do, and the next slide would be helpful on this, Simeon, if you can move that.
Yep.
One of the cool things, I call it cool because I really think it is, we provide free menus for programs. We do a lot of work with Catholic Charities in Queens and Brooklyn, and I mention them because they have a lot of the programs that were on that screen a moment ago. And about 7 or 8 years ago, they came to us and said they needed help with menus. And so we got educated on what exactly that meant. And of course, what that meant was they need menus that comply with CACFP, sometimes the National School Lunch Program as well. And so what we did was we went out and purchased a software-based program that was being marketed to nursing homes. And it was very expensive. There was a licensing fee. Excuse me. There was a licensing fee, and the owner would train all the dietitians on how to use the software. And so what we did was we bought the company, we brought it in-house, we hired dietitians, and then we made it free to all our members. Large or small, we'll do free menus for programs. And it's terrific. We have dietitians, registered dietitians, that will, they're very aware and knowledgeable about the CACFP requirements. They're always up to date on those. And we put together a custom menu. We work with you to design that menu that fits your program. And the cool part about it are the reports that come with it. And the key reports are the nutritional analysis, which it delivers lists all the nutritional components of the food being served. And that, of course, is really, when you're audited by the CACFP, when the USDA auditors come in, they like to see that report. Another report that we have is called the cost menu. We think it's important, obviously, to lower the cost of the invoice, to actually reduce the raw cost of the food coming in. But we think that knowing your true meal costs helps you to avoid food waste. And we do that in a couple ways. One is we can break out the meal cost per serving, per meal, per day. And so it's a great budget tool. And then we have recipes that will tie to the guidelines. And then also, of course, portion control. So we're trying to help you eliminate food waste in the process. So we think we have a very efficient way of doing that. And especially if you have multiple locations and you're all on the same menu, then you can see the efficiencies of one program versus the other. I mean, if you have, let's say that you're spending $5 per day per person, and that's what the cost menu shows you should be spending, but you find out, one location spending $8 a day, well, then you've got a tool to try to figure out why that is. Maybe it's because they're not ordering well, or maybe they're not understanding how to put the proper recipes together to have that portion control. So we think that's a pretty important tool in the toolbox. And then, of course, we put together a production report, which is like an order guide. And when we do the analysis, we might find, let's say, an 18% savings. And then once we sign you up and we actually do a menu for you, we actually put together that order guide, and we're going through the products that they have to match them up with what you need. But we're also looking at the best price points on those products as well. Sometimes it's a matter of changing the pack size that you're ordering to find an additional 10 or 15% savings. Or maybe it's the brand. So there's things like that that we're doing in addition to bring some value. If you could put to the next slide, Simeon. The personal protection equipment. This is new. Everyone's struggling with that right now, and I think at the end, I don't know if Simeon, you're able to put my letter as an attachment, but I'll have some links for you, hopefully at the end. We're working with a company called the Office Connection. And if you go to our website, it's www.foodandsupplysource.com, and you'll see the very first link on the page will say we have PPEs, and you can click to this website. And if you go back to the top, Simeon, let me just show that real quick. You'll see on where it says how to order, number 1, that's basically an online application. Click on that, you'll be able to sign up. And it's taking 2 or 3 days for them to get the application processed. You will get an email with your login credentials. And so then you'll be able to see all the products that they have. We have some of the products, the key products here. If you scroll down, Simeon, you'll see the face masks that are available. And I understand that this just before this call started today, I received an email and I forwarded that over to you, Simeon, that there's this brochure has been updated. So those prices have gone up just a little bit. I don't know how much because I haven't even had a chance to look at it, but I understand that the price of the masks have gone up a little bit. So I can email the current information, or you can go onto our website, and that should be updated. If you scroll down, you'll see toward the bottom, you'll see thermometers. And so one of the good points, it always comes with good news and bad news. The bad news was that the price of the masks apparently went up a little bit. Stop right there. But the good news is that the availability of these thermometers has improved. It had been, you'll see here that they had a minimum quantity of 50, that you'd have to order 50 thermometers, and we were, of course, objecting to that. We have some programs that's not a problem, or if they're combining their resources and and then they share the purchase. But we thought 50 was way too much. So now there is a minimum order size of 5 thermometers, which seems much more practical rather. And so there's 2 thermometers that are available. You'll see this one, and the pricing has changed a little bit. When you buy less, I think for a quantity of 5, I think the price was $75, but I don't know where it goes from that after that. But we can update that for you. The second slide down, you'll see another thermometer, which is a price point. It's quite a bit more. I don't know the difference between the 2. They read very similar to me. And so I quite frankly don't know what the difference is between the two of those. I know if it was my money, I'd probably go with the cheaper one. One of the things that I'm reminding people is the supply chains are being strained big time. We see that with food and meats right now, and we're seeing that with gloves. It's getting hard to find gloves. Last week, no problem. This week, it's a problem. So what I'm really recommending is find different sources. Obviously, we'd love to have you purchasing your things through Food and Supply Source. We work with human service organizations. We love what we do, but we need to know that prices are varying, quantities are varying, supplies are strained. So I would encourage you to register, do some shopping, but if you see something, maybe you should act on it, because of the what's available this afternoon may not be available in an hour from now. We have a couple other options for supplies as well, which I would like to suggest. And again, these don't cost anything to register. We have a program with Staples Business Advantage, where we've negotiated contract pricing, discounted pricing on hundreds of items. And if you don't already have a Staples Business Advantage program, I'd ask you to sign up through Food and Supply Source, and it's another source for seeing what's available. It can be frustrating. Last week I was looking for hand sanitizers on Staples. They had a lot of hand sanitizers, but every time I clicked on a product, it was out of stock. So it really may depend upon where you are, what day of the week, what time of day that you order. And so I would encourage that. One of the things that we do have with Staples Business Advantage, we have a nice diapers and wipes program where the pricing is discounted, and so that's a nice source where we have a lot of programs that are purchasing diapers and wipes, and it's comparable to the pricing if you went to the Walmart and purchased that. It's very comparable to that pricing. The other area that I would encourage is we have a program with Home Depot Pro Institutional, and they are a general supply vendor. They have paper products, they have cleaning supplies, mops. They do have gloves, of course, if they're in stock. And there's a credit application that I would send to you for that. Interestingly, yesterday, we did a cost savings analysis for a program in California. It was a Head Start program, and they were using two vendors in our network. One was food. The savings, interestingly, was 37%, which was on the high side, but there it was in black and white. And the other was the supplies, and the supplies was with Home Depot, which is in our network. And that was a 15% savings. So I hadn't ever had an experience of finding another program using that distributor and being able to compare that program's pricing to our pricing with Home Depot Pro Institutional. And so that was a 15% savings. And so that's a credit application. They have a minimum order size of about $300 per delivery. And the reason why it might be a little bit higher is because it is discounted, and so they're trying to make up their difference in a larger bulk purchase. But $300 is really, today's day and age, is not a whole lot. Simeon, I think that's kind of what I have today. If you were able to put up my my letter that I had sent to you, that emailed you earlier today.
I'm not. Let me see if I can pull that up. I'm not sure that I saw the letter. I saw the documents that you sent.
Yeah, when I had sent you a letter that I had addressed to the members of the Maryland Head Start Association.
I don't see it, but what I'll do is when I find it, I'll make sure that I send it. And excuse my my dogs for worrying about who's my daughter coming back in, but I will make sure that I send it out.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to say that what I did with that is I kind of hit the high points of what I talked today. I got right to the issue: food and supplies. You know, let us do a cost savings analysis for you. It doesn't cost you anything, and it's very easy. At the end of the day, you're going to know one of two things: can we improve on your pricing, or is your pricing already good? And there's no, if I didn't say this already, there's no contracts with us, there's no membership fees, there's no add-on fees. We get paid through the distributors. And so, you know, we're in this for the long haul. We want people to work with us because they want to, not because of contractual obligation. And, you know, we've been working with human services organizations, just like your programs. We don't work with hospitals, we don't work with restaurants, universities. We work with programs on the ground level like yourselves, and we really love what we do. And we feel like we make a good difference, especially when you tie in the menu service that we provide. And so that letter will kind of summarizes everything.
Yeah.
Does anybody have questions for me?
Yeah, and if you do have questions, I am unmuting folks so you can ask questions, or you can put your question in the chat. I will make sure to send out all of the information to you. So
I would, one other thought, there's you know, it's been interesting. We didn't know what was going to happen to our you know, our revenues, quite frankly, when this all broke. Certainly, programs are taking a pause. And so we've seen, you know, probably our revenues halved, you know, cut in half. I work with a lot of residential treatment facilities. They have remained open. They may not be taking on new clients, but they have remained open. But we also saw interesting, a pretty strong new set of business where programs were grocery shopping, and what they've realized is that you know, that it didn't make sense when they started looking at the cost of the delays, standing in line, the health concerns, the having people out of the office, the availability of product, and started realizing that having food and supplies delivered to a facility is really a better practice. And so typically when programs have been buying enough food, for instance, where they could really justify being with a distributor, they've gone to a grocery store because of the cost. And, you know, it's going to be cheaper dollar for dollar. But I would just encourage you to think about this, is that under our program, we are lowering the cost somewhere between 10 and 35%. And so we're leveling the playing field on that. We are looking at menus. We are providing that service, and that's a very real cost, not to you, but when we do a menu and we do all the reports that come with it, the value of that is somewhere between $2,500 and $3,000. There's a lot of work that goes into that, and it's really a terrific service. And we think that when you focus on the per meal costs, it brings everything into focus quite a bit. I looked at, there's a residential program in Los Angeles that we were talking to. We are unable to help them because they're a residential treatment facility literally in residential neighborhoods, so we couldn't get a truck in there. But we looked at the meal costs and compared meal costs, and it surprised me, quite frankly, that and he knew his meal costs. Most people don't really understand their meal costs. They may say, oh, we're spending $1,500 a week, but he knew what his per person meal costs were, and he could tell me what they were for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and what he's spending on snacks. And so, interestingly, we had done menus for a residential program in the LA area. They had 8 centers, and they were treating meth addicts, and menus were very important to them. And so we had the cost menus already broken out. And I was surprised to see that our meal costs were $5 a day, and that's what his were, and he was grocery shopping. And so that was a very telling thing to me. So sometimes what seems intuitive is really counterintuitive. And so maybe going through a distributor, if you're spending more than $500 or $600 every time you purchase food, maybe that is something to consider.
Yeah. And I will make sure that I get the information out to everyone about the, I have all of the documents. I think I sent you some information before. I'll make sure that I sent it again when I do the follow-up email with all of the links so that you can go to the website. You can become a member. It doesn't cost anything to become a member. Becoming a member does not mean that you have to purchase anything. So, but it will allow you to get some of the services because, the services come free of charge just by becoming a member.
I do want to add one thing. To do the menus, you do have to be buying food from one of our distributors. I do want to say that. Okay. All right.
And
I also want to add one other thing, if I may, Simeon. The information on what's available for supplies, especially PPE and disinfectants, are changing all the time, which happened to me just before this call. So I will be sharing with Simeon and to anybody that emails me my information, and I'll try to keep everybody up to speed on anything new that's available. One thing I forgot to talk about was the disinfectants. We have I understand that we do have hand sanitizer in a gel. We also have it in a liquid. And then there's also a product from Kirby, which is a spray bottle for when you're spraying doorknobs and desks and things like that. I thought that was a terrific product, pretty reasonably priced. And when you look at it's a product that you would add water to. You dilute it, and it gives you a lot of bottles, and it works out to like 10 cents per 24 ounces. So I thought that was a good product.
Yep, I will make sure I send that information out. And Dave, thank you. I appreciate the time. All right.
Thank you so much.
You will have his email and his phone number so that you can contact them. And the free analysis, if you're ordering food and you get a free analysis, it is, can be considered in kind. So, keep that in mind as well. Before I let you guys go, I do want to just make some quick announcements that you may already know. The first announcement is that schools will remain closed for the remainder of the year. We just got this from Governor Hogan not too long ago. Schools will remain closed till the end of the school year. Online and distance learning will continue. And then there's some updates to outdoor activities beginning at 7 a.m. tomorrow. You'll be able to participate in some safe outdoor activities, including exercise activities such as walking, hiking, running, or biking. But now they include golf, tennis, boating, fishing, and camping. Closed activities at state parks and state beaches will reopen for exercise. So that's some information that I'm pretty sure you'd be looking for. You'll be able to, if you haven't already, you can go back and look at the video for Governor Hogan. I will make sure to have it on our website. Okay. So that you can view the entire video. All right. If you have any other questions, please feel free to email me. I'll do the best that I can to answer those questions for you. And the one question that I have for you, I just want to remind you, if you do have the ability to bring in bulk supplies, please let us know, because as I said earlier, we have been in contact with the company that I mentioned to you earlier. the Maryland Emergency Management Company, and they will, if we get approved, then they may be shipping out bulk supplies or to one location so that we have to distribute them. So if you have that ability, please let me know so that we can try to set up some sort of system to get supplies distributed in the event. Again, I'm going to talk to her, try to talk to them today or tomorrow. I should have more information by Friday. Right? So I thank you for your time. Let me see. Someone said, did I see Brenda's question? Oh, okay. Yeah, I think he answered that. Brenda asked, is the program national? And he replied, yes. Mr. Miller replied, yes, that the program is national. So I thank you for your time, ladies and gentlemen, and I will see you next week. I will make sure to follow up this meeting with an email with notes from everything that was in the meeting. And all of the documents, any links to any of the websites will be included in the email. And of course, anything that happens between now and then or now and next week, I'll make sure to update you. All right. So thank you very much and enjoy the rest of your day, the rest of your week, and go check out what Governor Hogan said if you haven't already.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.